Nothing will dictate your external reality more than your internal state or your self-image. That's like the one thing that actually matters in everything that you do. Whether it comes to attracting better women, whether it comes to living a better life, living a good lifestyle, whether it comes to even getting in the best shape of your life, all of this revolves around your self-image, because how you see yourself is essentially how life is going to reflect your external state, what you see around you. And I knew this viscerally because I grew up in contrast. And people don't really know what this is, but a lot of the people who have grown up in different areas of life and have been able to see contrasts of the way that people live life, they can understand what I'm about to say. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, right? Brooklyn, New York was essentially poverty, right? For me, I lived in the projects. I didn't necessarily have anything. We lived on food stamps. We lived on, just EBTs, everything, right? We lived in an apartment with like 5 or 6 people. I shared a cot with my parents, with like the walls dripping sweat off of the walls and hitting my face. And we shared tins for like taking a shower. Like, I didn't know anything more than that. Grew up in a gang-infested neighborhood. And I didn't realize that my self-image from living that life was essentially stamped onto me, that like, this is all I was worth. And I internalized that, and I actually enjoyed how I was living, because that's what I believed I was. That's who I believed I was. The hood kid, the kid that was in the hood. And then my mom did something that was incredible that I don't think a lot of parents would even think about. She left comfort. She left the comfort, and my dad as well. They're still together to this day, which I'm very proud that my parents are together. They've been together for over 30 years, so they've shown me a different part of life. But my parents literally uprooted everything that they had in Brooklyn, New York, all the connections that they had, all of our family that we had. I have a lot of family in New York and Miami and Haiti, right? I'm Haitian American. They moved everything and moved to Arizona, completely different environment. This is back in 2006, right? 2006, Arizona was brand new. Nobody really knew about it. Now everybody knows about Scottsdale. Everybody knows about all these places, but I lived in Chandler, Arizona, complete suburbs. I started out growing up in the urban area of New York to the suburbs of Arizona. And it was a complete shift for me. The contrast was way too crazy for me because I was so used to being around poverty. I was so used to identifying as a poor person, not even knowing what that meant, but identifying as all of those things, all of those realities that I had as being a part of me. So now when I moved to Arizona, I see all of these, and yeah, it was more white people, right? I was around mostly white people. Whereas when I was in Brooklyn, I was all around black people. And the way that I was thinking was, well, all these people look like me. We all live in the hood. We all have this lifestyle. I was basically making everything my self-image. The black kid that was poor, that didn't have much going for him, that wanted to get into gangs, that wanted to get into that type of life, the street life and everything. And then getting uprooted all the way to Arizona, which again, thankful to my uncle, which I talked about in the previous video, that's doing really well right now. My uncle was the one that convinced my mom to move because he had relocated from Connecticut to Arizona, because he was working at this really, really big corporation. He was like, Martell needs to leave because if he stays there, his self-image is going to be so bad that there's no way that he's going to be able to survive. And so moving there completely shattered myself, actually accentuated my self-image of what I thought of myself before, because as I was identifying as this poor person, but then we ended up getting an apartment that looked way better. I started to talk to kids who saw life very differently, and I noticed that their self-image was very, very different. The way that they grew up, and they were blessed to be able to grow up in that scenario where like they could see themselves as somebody who was looking for more. These were kids who wanted to be anesthesiologists. These were kids who wanted to be doctors, to be like luxury real estate agents, to basically like do the things that their parents did, to have their self-image was so strong. They saw everything that they wanted to do and they embodied that. They were studying hard. They were making sure that they were able to get into university. This was all at a very young age. Right? These kids were going outside. They weren't scared of somebody attacking them or anything like that. And it taught me so much about, I need to change my self-image if I want to change my situation. I was fortunate that I was forced to change my situation by default. If I would have tried to change my self-image from that point, I would have never known what that concept was. And I would have just been stuck there because I didn't know anything else. Luckily, we have the internet now. So because of the internet, you can see different lifestyles. You can see how people move. You can see like someone living globally. You can see me, I'm here in Romania, right? I came from the US, completely different reality. I had to reprogram how I thought about everything. I had to reprogram how I thought about the United States. I was like, oh, I'm gonna live and die in the United States. I'm gonna be here. I don't need to go anywhere else. I had to completely change my self-image to, I wanna be global, right? I wanna have global influence. I wanna have the lifestyle to where I can go to different countries and enjoy myself. I wanna be able to influence people at a global scale. Right? And I instilled that self-image in me and that worth, because here's the thing. When I was in Arizona and I just came to Arizona, I didn't feel like I was even worthy enough to be around these people. Not because I was black, but because I came from poverty, right? It wasn't about race. This was about economic status, socioeconomic status. I was the kid who was living in an apartment while everybody else around me was living in huge houses, damn near mansions. And I had to wrestle with myself to start to believe like, yo, you belong here. You belong, you should be talking to these people. You should want the things that these people want. You're bigger than who you are. You're bigger than the food stamps. You're bigger than the EBTs. You're bigger than the gang violence. You're bigger than poverty. And that took me to a whole nother state to where now I started to really believe like, my reality is going to be completely different over the next 10 years. I started to be way more career focused. I started to do a lot more, and I started to see my reality slowly change. Started to get into basketball, athletics. I got into high school. I was selling candy in high school to make more money. My parents weren't making that much money. My mom was working in elderly services. My dad had an aneurysm, so he couldn't work. So I had to figure some things out. But my self-image was, you're going to be rich, you're going to be successful. And what happens when you think something, when you start to have these thoughts over and over and over, these positive thoughts, because most people in poverty, most people who are in a low state of life, they constantly have these negative thoughts that they reinforce into beliefs that then they reinforce into emotions, which are negative emotions, which then lead to negative actions or worse, inaction, right? Because at least when you have negative actions, you can get the feedback loop from the world and say like, okay, this is not the right action that's going to get me to where I need to be, so I need to change course. But when you do nothing, you sit in this cesspool of not even understanding like what you can do better or how you can improve or what could have been. And that all comes down to self-image. That all comes down to like who you are as a person, how you see yourself. You have to see yourself as successful. This is why I'm saying it's like you see. As I started learning all of this shit from people, as I started to pick up on these different traits, all of these guys, these kids who had the success mindset, had the confidence, had everything, I started to pick that up and I started to take that on. And I'm saying this now, and you might be saying, well, Martel, how do I do that? I'm not in an environment with a lot of rich people. You have the internet. You can be watching videos like this. You can be watching videos like everybody else who are essentially programming you, and you can also program yourself by listening to how they talk about themselves, how they talk about money, how they talk about life, how they talk about the lifestyle that they live. You can take that and you can implement that for yourself and start to have positive thoughts, which then lead to positive beliefs about yourself, which then lead to positive emotions, which then lead to positive actions, which change your entire external reality quickly. And I'm not saying this as like some like woo-woo, like this is like theory. This is fact. I'm literally, the contrast, look at how I'm living right now. Look at where I am right now. All of this came from a thought. All of this came from, I want to move to Romania. Okay, cool. I need to be able to find a way to do that. I deserve to be able to leave the United States. I deserve to have global freedom. I deserve to be around people. I deserve to have a network of global people, which I have. Of so many guys who are doing way better than me. But why am I accepted in that circle? Because I have a high self-worth. I carry myself a different way, right? My internal state, the way that my self-image is so high that I'm literally just waiting for life to catch up. And that's how you have to be. You have to get to a point where even if you're not where you need to be, let's say you're still living with your parents, or let's say that you're living in a shitty situation, you may not have any work, you may not be able to make money. You should start to believe that you are this multimillionaire. You are this guy who's super charismatic. You are this jack guy. And you're putting in the steps. You're doing the things that you need to do to be able to build those things up. You're going to the gym consistently. You're making sure your diet's straight. You're talking to as many people as you possibly can so that you can improve your charisma muscle. You are actually learning the different things that you need to do to build a business that you really want to build. And you're putting in those reps. You're reaching out to people. You're trying to get deals closed. You may get into sales so that you can understand how to sell. You start to make money in that sales role, right? You're doing all of these different things. You may see that your external reality is fucked up. But at the end of the day, the minute that you can actually take that, the minute that you can start to have the, and this is the biggest reframe that you're going to have. If you made it this far, you deserve what I'm about to say. The way that you look at this is that life needs to catch up to my self-image because I've already upgraded it. Yes, my external reality doesn't look the way that it needs to look, but life has to catch up with it because it has to mirror what I see inside of myself. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 2 weeks. That's what happened to me. I changed my self-image from when I was living in Utah to wanting to be global, to wanting to go to Europe, to Eastern Europe, to live here. And it took me 2 weeks for life to catch up to me, for me to actually make that decision and not make that decision, but execute on that decision and make it work. But it was all through like self-image programming. It was all through thinking about what I truly wanted, thinking about what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go. It was all about watching other people travel, going to Marbella, going to Dubai, going to all these different places. It took me looking at that and saying, I want that. And most people will see that and they'll try to deny it. They'll try to say like, oh, I don't need that lifestyle. That lifestyle is so hedonistic. That lifestyle is so materialistic. A lot of people say that because they genuinely believe in their heart of hearts that they don't deserve some shit like that. And that's the problem, right? That's why when you have a low self-image, you start to look at things that you truly want and say, I don't even deserve that. Like when I was in Arizona, when I left Brooklyn, I would start to make some friends who had very successful families, right? They were white kids. And I would tell myself, man, I don't deserve to even talk to this guy. Like, this guy has a way better background than me. Like, why would he want to talk to me? And I would self-sabotage myself out of those relationships because I just genuinely believe my self-image was that I'm not good enough to be able to talk to these people, which it sounds crazy saying that on camera right now. But at the time, and some of you may have the same thought about yourself. It could be with women too. I'm not worth it enough for her to talk to me. So you fumble that situation that you could have had because you just don't feel like you're worth it enough. Or, man, I'll never be able to get in shape because I don't deserve that. That's not something that you're going to consciously say, but it runs in your subconscious mind. Everything that you see around you runs from your subconscious mind. You not making money comes from running a self-image programming that's running in your subconscious mind that's telling you that you don't even deserve the opportunity to make the money. So you're always going to self-sabotage on everything that you do. You wanting to change your life, you wanting to be able to live a better life, you have to believe that that has to catch up to you because you're already at a point where you have that. You just have to wait for life to catch up. That's what poverty taught me about self-image. And even better, the contrast of moving from poverty to moving to a place that had significantly rich people and basically fracturing my whole identity and having to restructure everything and having to go into this confused state to be able to figure out how I could be worth something. And that's the scary part about it. A lot of people are living in this cycle of like, oh, I'm not worth anything. I'm not worth anything. I'm not worth anything. I'm not worth anything. And they don't even know that they're telling themselves that. You may be trying to convince yourself out loud, oh no, I'm definitely worth it. I'm definitely worth it. But until your subconscious is actually mirroring what it is that you say, which means you have to think about that shit all the time. You have to genuinely believe that shit to your soul, in your heart, that you are worth what it is that you want. And then life will catch up to you. Because that's all it is. All it is projecting what reality you want, projecting what self-image you are, and allowing for life to say, oh shit, he just upgraded himself. I need to catch up with all of his environment. He needs to move here. He needs to have this specific business or this specific job. He needs to know these specific types of people. Okay, cool, let's set that up. Let's set up some synchronicities. If you don't know what synchronicities are, they're basically things that happen with timing. And how do synchronicities actually happen? Synchronicities happen because you start to think about things that you genuinely want to have. And you genuinely believe that you are going to get those things. And those things magically start to come around. And it's not woo-woo, it's actually purely like the reticular activating system that's in your eyes, in what you see, your vision. You start to see patterns, you start to see things, you start to do things that create luck in your life. Luck is created. Luck isn't just some coincidence. Luck is synchronicity. Luck is you doing something that reinforces the self-image that you're projecting so many times that it happens. That's why people have bad luck and people have good luck. Bad luck are people who have negative self-images, negative self-beliefs, negative self-talk, and that has a chain of reaction to all of the bad things that happen to them. They keep having bad shit happen to them. The people who have really, really good self-belief, right? Really, really good thoughts, that brings good luck. That's all it is. It's just actions that synchronically happen because of the way that your self-image is. And you can change this. That's the cool part about this and why I wanted to say this, because it can change at any point in time. Your self-image can completely shift if you think about it a little bit more. If you want to be able to actually like change your life, it's your self-image. It's who you want to be surrounded by. You have to understand that you are worth talking to. You're worth being around. You're worth the things that you want. It's all about self-worth. That's what's going to take you to the next level. That's why you might have been stuck for a long time. That's why I wanted to make this video. Could I go and make another video that goes viral because I know what does that? Yeah, but I'd rather help you guys first. I'll make another one tomorrow or something like that. But this video can actually change somebody's life if they understand that their self-image is what's going to lead them to where they need to go. And I only understand this viscerally because I had the contrast between extreme poverty and then being uprooted to like a rich society that I had to almost like, I had to elevate my self-image to match that, to be able to like live in that state. So hopefully this was valuable for you. I appreciate you. All of my programs, all of my mentorship, whatever that is, I'm actually building a network now. I want to build a global network of men who are genuinely looking to travel with me, to do live events, to do some fight camps, to do some business masterminds, to do all of that stuff. I have a really good network, but I want to bring everything together. I'm actually talking to my private Telegram group, which you can join below, and setting that up for guys who genuinely have a sort of a head start in life, right? They're making some good money. They want to have better connections. They want to be closer to me. They want to be closer to other guys that I know. They want to elevate their life globally and do the things that they see me doing. If you follow my Instagram, I show a lot of this stuff. I don't show it here. I'm going to start showing it here more. But the guys who want that, the link will be in the description. You can join the Telegram. I'm going to put together a waiting list for this because this is what I was supposed to be doing this whole time. I've been trying so many different business models. Been trying to coach this, coach that, coach this, and I still do it. But I live a different lifestyle, and I think a lot of people would like a lifestyle like that. If you don't, great, that's fine. But for the people who do, I want to be able to provide them the opportunity to be able to do that. So I hope you found this video valuable. I'm gonna catch you on the next one.